There are 300 years of missing American music history. I want you to think about music in the 1920s and all of its different facets. Let's focus on America for this one. Swing, country, blues. I want you to think about all of the movement those genres and all the branching out those three genres have done in the last 100 years. Now think about the 1820s and the 1720s. And it's going to be harder to think about the evolution from the 1820s to the 1920s. You might think of minstrel shows, cowboys, mostly stuff that we've seen in seeing the 1800s portrayed in modern film. Because the problem is we didn't start really recording this stuff until the 1920s. We have classical and opera and those kinds of stuffy upper class music. That's all well documented because it was written down. And throughout the 1800s, we do have folk music starts to get written down and translated onto sheet music. So we kind of have a little bit of it. We have some documentation about banjos coming to America, kind of, but it's only by rich white men. And do we really trust that? They weren't involved in any of these cultures. And so it gets muddy. Where did the blues actually come from? We know it becomes a genre in the 1920s. We know we can sort of see its evolution throughout the minstrel shows in the 1800s. Everything else is just kind of filling in the blanks and maybe some hearsay. But the truth is, we only know about the end result of hundreds of years of mixing of cultures and innovation and iteration. The blues didn't just happen and come out that way. And we do know that most of the grandfathers of the blues grew up or were born on or near Native American reservations. And if we start to dig, check out the movie Rumble on Netflix, by the way. If we start to dig, we can see how heavy the Native American influence is on American music. So, side note, there's this thing happening, and I think a lot of people don't know how to talk about it. And that is that there's a lot of people who are starting to, there's these conspiracies that there was no transatlantic slave trade and that black people are the real indigenous people. And they use these historical documents from the late 1800s as proof. But they got it twisted, like so many conspiracy theorists do. Because there are 300 years of missing history, not just music history, cultural history, and the cultural exchange between Native Americans and enslaved Africans. Whole cultures that spanned at least 100 years. I don't mean communities, I mean cultures. New paradigms and ways of living between indigenous and black people. Whole new genres of music that evolved over at least 100 years. For every genre that made it in America as uniquely American in the early 1900s, there are countless subgenres that evolved along the way. And these are things that we might never hear. Some of them made it. Specifically in Florida and Cuba, we know a lot about those genres of music because they were passed down over generations pretty intact, but you're going to lose and gain things over every generation. Anyway, so what has happened is people have filled in the blanks. That's how you get conspiracies. You have these gaps in knowledge and you fill in the blanks. And so they'll kind of never go away. Kind of like religion. Religion is just a conspiracy theory that caught on a lot. It's just this concept of filling in the blanks. So we're starting to see, because it usually takes a couple hundred years for this to happen, we're starting to see a lot of people filling in the blanks of that missing 300 years. We only have documentation of the people in power, but there was so much going on in America for 300 years that was just not documented. And why I love looking into and digging around and trying to find any crumb I can about this missing 300 years, is that's where the good shit is. Most of the documentation that we have is horrible. America has this terrible history. but it can't all be terrible. Because people are amazing, especially when people come together culturally and have cultural exchange. That's the good shit. That's the melting pot. That's people finding a way to express themselves and help each other. And the only way we're going to stop it from consistently being exploited and changed and lied about is to embrace its existence, while at the same time knowing that we'll never know. Because there are 300 years we just won't get back. We can dig and we can speculate and we can find new information. But we can never say anything definite about the evolution of American music because there are 300 years that are missing. I hope you have a badass day. I love you.